All right, welcome back, everyone. I just lost my shoe. Doing good. Chapter 6. Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome back to the second part of the Magic Tree House, Mummies in the Morning. Maybe we should do a recap. I'm going to be okay. Apparently, I'm losing shoes and my mind. So, in the beginning of the book, Jack and Annie find the book on Egypt. They both decide they want to go see the pyramids, and they follow them. They end up meeting a black cat, much like how they have met a pterodactyl, and a knight, and the black cat becomes their guide and leads them to follow a funeral procession for a deceased mummy or royal family member, we don't know, into the actual pyramid, where they come across the Queen of Death, Queen of the Nile, Hutapi, and she tells them that she is farsighted, ultimately, and that she cannot read the hieroglyphics that her brother put on the walls inside of the burial chamber in order to find her way through the underworld. I'm sorry, there was like a shadow on the side of my eye there. I don't know what's going on here tonight. I'm going to be okay. It could also be like lights from the street because the window is behind me. Who knows? Anyways, back to the reading. Chapter 6. The writing is on the wall. Jack and Annie squinted at the pyramid's walls. A series of tiny pictures was carved into the stone. It looks like stairs and then like an altar with different things on it. A picture and then the staff. Or I think what did he call it? They didn't call it a staff. I can't remember. A scepter is what they called it. The staff. There are 4 pictures here, Jack told the Ghost Queen. Describe them to me, Jack. One at a time, please, she said. Jack studied the first picture. Oh, he said, the first one is like this. He made a zigzag in the air with his finger, like stairs, asked the Ghost Queen. Yes, stairs, said Jack, just like stairs. She nodded. That was easy enough, Jack thought. He studied the second picture. The second one has a long box on the bottom, he said. He drew it in the air. The Ghost Queen looked puzzled. With like 3 things on top, like this, said Annie. She drew squiggly lines in the air. The Ghost Queen still seemed puzzled. Like a hat, said Jack. Hat, said the Ghost Queen. No, more like a boat, said Annie. Boat, said the Ghost Queen. She sounded excited. Boat. Yep, sometimes, yes, they would sail the bodies up the Nile. Jack took another look at the wall. Yes, it could be a boat. I guess it could be. I don't see it, but that's okay. The Ghost Queen looked very happy. She smiled. Yes, of course, she said. Jack and Annie studied the next picture. The third one is like a thing that holds flowers, said Annie. Or a thing that holds water, said Jack. Like a jug, asked the Ghost Queen. Exactly, said Jack. Yes, a jug, said Annie. Jack and Annie studied the next picture. And the last one looks like a pole that droops, said Annie. Like a carved stick, said Jack. But one side is shorter than the other. The Ghost Queen looked puzzled again. Wait, said Jack. I'll draw it in my notebook. Big, so you can see it. Jack put down the scepter and got out his pencil. He drew the hieroglyphic. A folded cloth, said the Ghost Queen. Really, said Jack. Yes, that is the hieroglyphic for folded cloth, said the Ghost Queen. Oh, okay, said Jack. I didn't know that. Okay. He looked at the 4th hieroglyphic again. I would too. He still couldn't see the folded cloth. Maybe it was like a towel hanging over a bathroom rod. So that's all of them, said Annie. She pointed at each picture. Stair, boat, jug, folded cloth. Jack wrote the words in his notebook, rather. So what does the message mean? He asked the Ghost Queen. Come, she said. She held out her hand. Come to my burial chamber. And she floated away. Chapter 7. The Scroll. Yep. They're also buried with jars after having lobotomy, where they take the brains out through the nose. They take all the organs out and they put them in jars around the sarcophagus. You need everything when you get to the afterlife. That was their thing. It's also why they drew the eyes open on the sarcophagus so that they could see where they were going as they traveled. I don't understand that, but not up to me to understand it. Jack put the scepter and his notebook and pencil into his pack. The Ghost Queen seemed so kind and gentle. He wasn't afraid of her at all anymore. Jack and Annie followed her deeper into the pyramid. Finally, they came to some stairs. The stairs, said Jack and Annie together. The Ghost Queen floated up the stairs. Jack and Annie followed. The Ghost Queen floated right through a wooden door. Well, that's going to be problematic for Jack and Annie, yeah. Jack and Annie pushed on the door. It opened slowly. They stepped into a cold, drafty room. The Ghost Queen was nowhere in sight. Dim torchlights lit the huge room. It had a very high ceiling. On one side was a pile of tables, chairs, and musical instruments. I got no idea now. On the other side of the room was a small wooden boat. The boat, said Jack. I'm so sorry. What is it doing inside Queen Hutapi's? Hutape? Oh boy. We're going to play this game again. Hutapi? I hope I'm saying that right. I'm tired, but I hope I'm saying it right. Hutapi's. Oh, I lost the mark. What is it doing in her pyramid? Asked Annie. Maybe it's supposed to carry her to her next life, said Jack. Jack and Annie went over the boat. They looked inside it. The boat was filled with many things: gold plates, painted cups, jeweled goblets, woven baskets, jewelry with blue stones, and small wooden statues. Look, said Jack. He reached into the boat and lifted out a clay jug. The jug, said Annie. Jack looked inside the jug. Something's in here, he said. What is it? Asked Annie. Jack felt inside the jug. It feels like a big napkin, he said. The folded cloth, said Annie. Jack reached into the jug and pulled out the folded cloth. It was wrapped around an ancient scroll. Jack slowly unrolled the scroll. It was covered with wonderful hieroglyphics. The Book of the Dead, whispered Annie. We found it. Oh, man, Jack traced his finger over the scroll. It felt like very old paper. Queen Hutapi, called Annie. We have it. We found your Book of the Dead. Hutapi? Hutapi. Tappy. I'm gonna be okay. Silence. Queen Hutapi? A door on the other side of the chambers creaked open. Maybe she's in there, said Annie. Oh, I don't know. Jack's heart was pounding. Cold air was coming through the open doorway. Come on, said Annie. Wait. No, said Annie. She's waited thousands of years for her book. Don't make her wait any more. Jack put the ancient scroll in his backpack. Then he and Annie slowly started to cross the drafty room. They came to the open door. Annie went through first. Hurry, Jack, she said. Jack stepped into the other room. It was nearly bare except for a long gold box. The box was open. It was covered. Its cover was on the floor. Queen Hutapi, called Annie. Silence. We found it, said Annie. Your Book of the Dead. There was still no sign of the Ghost Queen. The gold box glowed. Jack could barely breathe. Let's leave the scroll on the floor and go, he said. No, I think we should leave it in there, said Annie. She pointed to the gold box. No, said Jack. Don't be afraid, said Annie. Come on. Annie took Jack by the arm. They walked together across the room and the glowing gold box. They stopped in front of the box and peered inside. Chapter 8, The Mummy. A real mummy, Jack thought. Bandages were still wrapped around the mummy's skull, but most of the bandages had fallen away from the face. It was Hutapi, Queen of the Nile. Hutapi's mummy was beautiful. It had broken teeth, little wrinkled ears, and a squishy nose. Its flesh had withered. Its eyes were hollow sockets. The rotting bandages on the mummy's body were coming off. Jack could see bones. Oh, gross, cried Annie. Let's go. No, said Jack. It's interesting. Forget it, said Annie as she started to walk out of the room. Wait, Annie. Come on, Jack. Hurry, cried Annie. She was standing by the door. Jack pulled out the Egypt book and flipped to a picture of the mummy. He read aloud. Ancient Egyptians tried to protect the body so it would last forever. First, it was dried out with salt. Yes. Oh, stop, said Annie. Listen, said Jack. He kept reading. Next, it was covered with oil. Then it was wrapped tightly in bandages. The brains were removed by... I already said this. Yuck! Stop, cried Annie. Goodbye. She dashed out the room. Annie, cried Jack, we have to give her the Book of the Dead. But Annie was gone. Jack reached into his pack. He pulled out the scroll and the scepter. He put them next to the mummy's skull. Was it just his imagination, or did a deep sigh seem to shudder through the room? Did the mummy's face grow calmer? Jack held his breath as he backed out of the mummy room. He hurried through the boat room and headed down the stairs. At the bottom of the stairs, Jack heaved his own sigh of relief. He looked down the hallway. It was empty. Hey, Annie, where are you? He said. No answer. Where in the world was Annie? Jack stared down the hallway. Annie just started down the hallway. Annie, he called. Had she run out of the pyramid? Was she outside already? Annie, help, Jack, came a voice. The voice sounded far away. It was Annie. Where was she? Help, Jack. Annie! Jack started to run along the shadowy hallways. Help, Jack! Her cry seemed fainter. Jack stopped. He was running away from the voice. What was that? What was it? Sorry, we're having a moment.
Okay, got it out.
Oh, your sand. Kinetic sand. Oh, God. I'm so sorry again. Jack stopped. He was running away from her voice. Annie, he called. He went back towards the burial chamber. Jack! Her voice was louder. Jack! Jack climbed the stairs. He went back into the boat room. He looked around at the furniture, the musical instruments, and the boat. Then he saw it. There was another door. It was right next to the door he had just come through. The other door was open. Jack dashed through it. He found himself at the top of some stairs. Sorry. They were just like the stairs outside the other door. He went down the stairs and into the hallway. It was lit by torches on the wall. It was just like the hallway. Annie, he called. Jack! Annie! Jack! Annie was running through the hallways towards him. She crashed into him. Remember how they said that the robbers would come in and so they would make secret passageways that looked exactly like the actual real ones? I think that's what happened. I was lost, she cried. I think this is one of those false passages built to fool the tomb robbers, said Jack. A false passage, said Annie, panting. Yeah, it looks just like the other hallway, said Jack. We have to go back into the boat room and out the right door. Just then they heard a cracking noise. Jack and Annie turned around. They looked up the stairs. They watched in horror as the door slowly creaked shut. Oh, no. A deep sound rumbled in the distance, and all the torches went out. Oh, no, 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 no. Chapter 9. Follow the leader. It was pitch black. What happened? Asked Annie. I don't know. Something weird, said Jack. We have to get out of here fast. Push against the door. Good idea, said Annie in a small voice. They felt their way through the darkness to the top of the stairs. Don't worry, everything's going to be okay, said Jack. He was trying to stay calm. Of course, said Annie. They leaned against the wooden door and pushed. It wouldn't budge. They pushed harder. It was no use. Jack took a deep breath. It was getting harder to breathe and harder to stay calm. What can we do? Asked Annie. Just rest a minute, said Jack, panting. His heart was pounding as he tried to see through the darkness. If you broke it, throw it away.
I didn't think that sand can break spoons.
It can. But throw the broken one away. Don't keep it. We put plastic spoons inside the kinetic sand. You can walk over here.
Okay.
The camera's more this way than it is that way. You don't have to worry. Let me see the spoon for a minute so we can show. It's just a plastic spoon that he was doing his kinetic sand with, and it busted. Oh, I'll follow.
You're okay.
Okay. His heart was pounding as he tried to see through the darkness. Maybe we should start down the hall, Annie said. Maybe we'll eventually come to an exit. Jack wasn't sure about that, but they had no choice. Okay, come on, he said. Feel the wall. Jack felt the stone wall as he climbed slowly down the stairs. Annie followed. Jack started down the dark hallway. It was impossible to see anything, but he kept going, taking one step at a time, moving his hands along the wall. Jack went around the corner. He went around another corner. He came to some stairs. He climbed up. Annie followed. There was a door. Jack pushed against it. Annie pushed too. The door wouldn't budge either. Or was it the same door? Jack and Annie stopped pushing. It was no use. They were trapped. Annie took Jack's hand in the dark. She squeezed it. They stood together at the top of the stairs, listening to the silence. Meow. Oh, man, Jack whispered. He's back, said Annie. Meow. Follow him, cried Jack. He's going away from us. Jack and Annie started down the dark hallway, following the cat's meow. Hands against the wall. They stumbled through the darkness. Meow. Jack and Annie kept following the sound all the way through the winding hallways. They went around one corner, then another, and then another. Finally, they saw a light at the end of the tunnel. They rushed forward, out into the bright sunlight. Yay, Annie shouted. But Jack was thinking. Annie, he said, how did we get out of the false passage? The cat, said Annie. But how could the cat do it? Asked Jack. Magic, said Annie. Jack frowned, but look, said Annie. She pointed. The cat was bounding away over the sand. Thank you, called Annie. Thanks, Jack shouted at the cat. The cat's black tail waved. Then the cat disappeared into the shimmering wave of heat. Jack looked towards the palm tree. The magic tree house sat like a bird's nest on the top of one. Time to go home, Jack said. Jack and Annie set off to the palm tree. It was a long, hot walk. At last, Annie grabbed the rope ladder. Jack followed. Once they were inside the treehouse, Jack reached for the book about Pennsylvania. Suddenly, he heard a rumbling sound. It was the same sound he had heard in the pyramid. Look, Annie said, pointing out the window. Jack looked. A boat was beside the pyramid. It was gliding over the sand like a boat sailing over the seas. Then the boat faded away into the distance. Was it just a mirage, or was the Ghost Queen finally on her way to the next life? Home, Jack whispered Annie. Jack opened the Pennsylvania book. He pointed to the picture of Frog Creek. I wish we could go home, he said. The wind began to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 10. Another clue. Late morning sunlight shone through the treehouse window. Shadows danced on the walls and ceiling. Jack took a deep breath. The treehouse was back in Frog Creek Woods. I wonder what Mom's making for lunch, said Annie. She was looking out the window. Jack smiled. Lunch. Mom. Home. It all sounded so real, so calm and safe. I hope it's peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, he said. Boy, this place is a mess, said Annie. We'd better make it neater in case Em comes back. Jack had almost forgotten about Em. Will we ever meet Em, Jack wondered, the person who seems to own all the books in the treehouse? Let's put the Egypt book on the bottom of the pile, said Annie. Good idea, said Jack. He needed a rest before he visited any more ancient tombs. Let's put the dinosaur book on top of the Egypt book, said Annie. Yeah, good, said Jack. He needed a long rest before he visited another Tyrannosaurus Rex. The castle book can go on the
that's a reference to the dinosaur.
Yeah. The castle book can go on the very top of the pile, said Annie. Jack nodded and smiled. He liked thinking about the knight on the cover of the castle book. He felt as if the knight was his friend. Jack, said Annie. Look. She was pointing at the wooden floor. What is it? He asked. You have to see for yourself. Jack walked to Annie and looked at the floor. He didn't see anything. Turn your head a little, said Annie. You have to catch the light just right. Jack tipped his head to one side. Something was shining on the floor. He tipped his head a bit more. It came into focus. It was the letter M. It shimmered in the sunlight. This absolutely proves the treehouse belongs to M. There was no doubt about it. Jack touched the M with his fingers. His skin tingled. The leaves trembled. The wind picked up. Let's go home now, Jack said. Jack grabbed his backpack. Then he and Annie climbed down the ladder, and they stood on the ground below the treehouse. Jack heard a sound in the bushes. Who's there? He called. The woods grew still. I'm going to bring the medallion back soon, Jack said loudly, and the bookmark too. Both of them, tomorrow. Who are you talking to? Asked Annie. I feel like Em is nearby, Jack whispered. Annie's eyes grew wide. Should we look for Em? But just then their mom's voice came from the distance. Jack! Annie! Jack and Annie looked around at the tree. Then they looked at each other. Tomorrow, they said together. They took off running out of the woods. They ran down their street. They ran across their yard. They ran into their house. They ran into their kitchen. They ran right into their mom. She was making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. The end. And that's the end of the Magic Treehouse book number 3, Mummies in the Morning. Let me know what you guys think. Leave your comments down below.